I'm pleased to be joined now by the Executive Director of the United Way of Greater Fall River, Liz Smith. And, we're going to talk today about how the nonprofit community is working together to try to make sure that those of you at home who may need some of the services that you're looking for during this crisis of dealing with COVID-19 are still able to do so. Kim, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you for having me. I think it's important for us to intensify communication with our community in the best way possible. So social media is certainly a lifeline for many, but this is wonderful that we have you as a resource to get us out there and help educate and inform and kind of keep on top of this, stay ahead of the curve, as they say right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Kim, there are so many social service and nonprofit organizations in Fall River that are serving Fall River residents, not just during this crisis, but at all times. And I know the United Way has been a big organizer of sort of an umbrella organization. You fund some of these other social service agencies throughout the year. But during this crisis of COVID-19, what are you trying to do through the United Way to try to organize these organizations and sort of take the lead, if you will, in terms of coalescing the services and informing the people of the services that are available at this time?
That's a great question, Keith. And I think that now more than ever, we're seeing collaboration among all of our local area nonprofits. Generally speaking, as you mentioned, the United Way does partner with many of our nonprofits to fight for the health, education, and financial stability of our individuals and families. Among that also are basic needs, food equity, things of that nature. But we've really come together as a community, the nonprofit sector, our local government officials, statewide as well, business leaders and funders, and we've kind of formed what we're calling our own virtual MARC. And that is the Multi-Agency Resource Center, which is what they call a group that comes together to respond to disaster. You may recall that happened last year during the Four Winds Fire, and the United Way was a very significant part of that. So we're coming together virtually in partnership with the United Neighbors. So we have collectively called ourselves United We Help Greater Fall River, and we are the community action group that's kind of bringing all of those partners together to assemble information in a very organized and cohesive manner. There's a lot of information almost being a deluge, we're deluged with it every day, and it's hard to sort of decipher what's fact, what's fiction. We don't have time necessarily to check the sources. So that's one of the pieces, bringing together all of the local information and then disseminating that in a way that's best for our public. We do have the ever-changing list of resources up on our website, uwgfr.org. The government website, fallriverma.org, has fantastic information. This, mass.gov, CDC, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So that's a piece of it. We're also, that group is also trying to decipher who's doing what so that we're not duplicating effort, but rather we're coming together to create a stronger impact to assist our community and to do so safely. That is one of the priorities of this group because everybody wants to help. Everybody wants to sort of mobilize and get into action, but not knowing necessarily, the lifespan of the virus and how it, 6 feet, 20 feet, whatever the case may be. We want to make sure we're not doing more harm than good by getting out there in the public. And how are we doing that? How are we distributing food and basic need supplies and getting to our elders who are shut in and helping those who have never had to sort of walk this journey of being unemployed or having their hours cut or being, shut inside and sort of suffering from cabin fever, balancing the work remotely and the homeschooling and the close quarters and all of that. So mental health supports come into play. How do we get our parents to have access to parent supports, and how are we talking with our schools, and lots of things there. So it's a fantastic group. We come together virtually on Tuesdays and sort of reassess and then communicate with Mayor Coogan and his wonderful team. That's really been amazing, working with EMA, the EMA director, Rick Aguiar, all of the people that are trying to do their best. So.
Yeah, I know, and it's really a daunting task to try to organize all these organizations. But one way that I know you talked about the mayor's last press conference last Friday, Senator, you had the opportunity to speak about Mass 211, and that is a phone service where people can find information about assistance. Give us a brief overview about what Mass 211 is and how it's impacting people and getting information they need to be served.
Sure, Keith, that's great. Mass 211 has existed for quite some time now. It is a program offered by local United Ways for folks to access health and human service information by the simple touch of a button on any phone. They dial 211 and they can get in touch with an operator on the other side that is able to connect them with resources, information, et cetera, et cetera. On March 13th, Mass 211 was dedicated as the emergency response line for all health and human service inquiries, non-emergency response line, I should say, for all health and human service inquiries, COVID response information, health information. DPH has fortified Mass 211 with epidemiologists that are on staff to answer questions specifically related to COVID-19, health issues and treatment, travel, you name it. And so part of this group coming together is really encouraging all agencies to update their information in Mass 211 because it's very simple to use. And people are calling in that the increase in volume went from 400 calls a day to over 2,000 calls a day, skyrocketed, and really all related to COVID-19. So all of our agencies have been fantastic in using Mass 211 as that centralized source of information. They can update it daily if they need to, because we know things are also changing rapidly in this landscape. But one of the things we want to encourage right now is that dialing 211 on your phone line, will get you in touch with an operator in over 150 languages, but there are long wait times. So we're encouraging now folks to visit mass211.org on their computer or on their cell phone if they have access. And it's very simple. They just search for help or they put the help button at the top, and it basically finds the resources based on your location. So if you enable your location on your phone or you type in your zip code, you will literally be contacted or directed to the resources that are within your local community. So it's been amazing to have that resource. We're encouraging our agencies to check it out themselves, just so they have the level of confidence that it's doing what it says it's doing. And we know from Governor Baker to Mayor Coogan and everyone in between, their 211 is being touted as the place to go to call for resources. First and foremost, non-emergency. So,
yeah, you mentioned with 211 though, Kim, is if I were to call from Fall River, that online it gives you the resources to find your location. Is that the same when you call? Will it know that you're calling from Fall River and be able to help you get specific resources that are in your region, or is it more of a state and regional type 211?
While it is a statewide service offering for this type of health and human service assistance, if you call in, you will speak to a live person, and they will ask you where you're located, city or town, or maybe ask by your zip code, and they will then direct you to the resources. So absolutely, it is very locally specific, not just statewide. And that's again why it's important that our agencies are updating their information in there at all times. The interpreters, there is an interpreter service for over 150 languages, and that's easily accessible online. And then you talk about that on the phone. There are English and Spanish speaking operators accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So
that is that's good to know. And with everything that's going on, we're talking right now about a health emergency, someone's physical health, but you have a lot of resources, and I'll guide people to the United Way's COVID-19 page, which has a lot of good information about resources that are more than just physical health, right? There's emotional health. There's still people who are dealing with substance abuse issues and housing issues. And these are issues that people may have dealt with before, but there may be new people that are entering some of these realms because of the stress that they're under during this time.
That's correct. Among the questions that are being answered and sort of filtered to the specific resources by Mass 211 are questions just like that, real-time questions related to unemployment, housing, childcare, food insecurity, shelter, basic needs, things of that nature. People are definitely concerned about their financial health. They're concerned about their mental and behavioral health. And so directing folks to those services is very, very important. We know that there are going to be long-term ramifications of this whole experience. And we also need to be prepared as a united way, as a community, to have the capacity to address those things that will ultimately be the ripple effect of people being out of work and people not, maybe not sending kids to camp because they don't have the resources. So that's part of what our emergency fund, the relief fund, is designed to help with, sort of bridging those gaps so that people can emerge on the other side as whole as possible, both physically, financially, and mentally stable as they move through this process.
You mentioned the relief fund. There's a COVID-19 relief fund that the United Way is undertaking. How can people help if they have the means to donate to this effort?
That's a great question, Keith. And we are certainly encouraging folks to sort of stick with their local known entities if they have the means to support. United Way, we've been in our community for 73 years, so we are a trusted, known fundraising entity that provides help and assistance to our community. And so, unfortunately, in days like today, people tend to take advantage. And so we really are trying to steer people away from phone calls. If you're getting a phone call asking you for support, it's probably not a valid one. Definitely check that out. They can go to uwgfr.org, which is our website, and we have the COVID-19 Relief Fund there. We are not taking any administrative fees out of that fund. So every penny that folks choose to donate to the COVID-19 Relief Fund will be used to respond to crisis needs. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we know this is going to be a long journey. So some of those funds will also be used to assess needs sort of mid-range, 60 days from now, 90 days from now, 6 months from now, maybe even a year from now. We really don't know what this is going to look like. And so the COVID-19 Relief Fund with the United Way is meant to assist individuals and families in sort of filling those gaps, as I mentioned. It's sort of some flexible funding. We're not going to have sort of the strict parameters around a grant application that we may have had in the past, but we're doing so through our nonprofit partners in the community. We're not funding individuals directly. We're doing so through nonprofit partners that have the capacity and the capabilities of fulfilling an increased demand and increased volume, because obviously folks, looking for help are going to seek out the assistance of those people, those nonprofit agencies that we're sort of guiding them to. So we want to be very thoughtful, very methodical, and careful in how we fund the relief efforts. But we're also doing so in collaboration with partners across the South Coast, like the Community Foundation, United Way of Greater New Bedford. We're really intensifying that communication, so we're sort of all on the same page, and ensuring that no one falls through the cracks as we kind of work through this process. So if folks want to give, it's super easy. They can go to our website and click on the link. It's right there. You can also text to give, and you simply text COVID-relief to 44321. And as I said, every penny goes to this relief fund. We are not taking any administrative fees out.
Well, Kim, I want to thank you for joining us again. The key information, go to the United Way of Greater Fall River's website, uwgfr.org, Mass 211, very important. If you need some assistance more immediately to get the information you need about getting help through this difficult time we're all dealing with COVID-19. Kim, I appreciate your time. Thank you for joining, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you, Keith. You be well. Stay safe.